All right. Two things to talk about today. Yeah, the Expanse. We're going to talk about the Expanse, and we're going to talk a little bit about Star Wars. Screen Rant may be a little late to the game. Thinks that Star Wars might have a little bit of a plot problem that they're going to bump into, having kind of wrote themselves into a disastrous corner with the sequel trilogy. So we're going to talk about that too. Um, yeah, and kind of a new channel. So if you just found me for the first time, welcome to the channel, y'all. Um, what order we want to do this? Let's do the Expanse first. I am so excited for the Expanse. So let's talk about that first. Yeah, this article in Deadline. Here, let me get me out of the way a little bit here. Boy, let's put me up here today. So this article in Deadline. Move this. Says The Expanse. Whoa, I'm tiny now. The Expanse. Cast and creators of the show. Intense final season. Trailer and premiere date revealed at New York Comic Con. So, yeah, Comic Cons are still a thing. We're not post-pandemic as much as all of us would like to be, but yeah, cons are coming back. I haven't been to any yet. Usually, when I went to conventions, it would be writer conventions, World Fantasy, or Worldcon. But I've been to a Comic Con or two. Those are cool as well, but I typically like hanging out with my writers and artists. A couple crews I meet regularly at those things, but Comic Cons are back, and it's kind of cool because we're getting information released with these big cons, as opposed to like trickled out on various companies' live streams and stuff. So kind of exciting to see. And at New York Comic Con, we heard about The Expanse. Let's read through this article. The Expanse has come a long way. Yeah, it has. Picked up by Amazon for the 4th season following its cancellation by Sci-Fi. The series was promptly renewed for a fifth and a sixth and final season on the streaming service. I will say that seasons 1 through 4 were staggeringly good. Season 5 was okay. I actually took a break in the middle of watching season 5, which I think says something. If you haven't seen The Expanse yet, I'm kind of jealous that you get the opportunity to watch seasons 1 through 4 for the first time. It was just impressively fantastic. Easily one of the best television series I've seen in the last 20 years. Season 5, also good. I think Amazon was finding their feet a little bit with some of the characters and the storytelling early on. I don't know if they switched all the writers around or whatnot, but all the cast remains the same. 5th season still really, really good. Even though I did take a break rather than binging it, which I did for the previous seasons. We'll see what the 6th does, but I'm excited for it. At New York Comic Con Friday, The Expanse star Dominique Tipper, who portrays Naomi on the sci-fi drama, opened the panel with a greeting for fans and introduced the cast who shared their thoughts on the upcoming final season. There's a list of the cast here. After the trailer premiere, Tipper asked creators how they feel about the show coming to a close. No, it's done after 6 seasons. That's okay. It had a good run. I hope they close it. I hope they close the show out well. Hopefully they don't Game of Thrones it and crash and burn at the end, but it's been amazing so far. It's been a long project, and it's gratifying to see how it turned out. Yeah, it has been for me too, said Abraham. Ad Shankar, it chokes me up. I think that tells you something about where we've been and where we're going. Season 5 left. I'm not going to do any spoilers for season 5. You can read the article yourself. I'll link it in the description. But if you haven't seen season 5 yet or any of The Expanse, I'm not going to talk about what happened in season 5. From the beginning, we had to write every script so that there was no advantage in it, Frank said. I don't know what that means. I don't know what he's trying to say. So that there was no advantage in it. We just had to tell the story we were there to tell. I like that. And keep our foot on the gas pedal the whole way. Yeah, boy, did they. There will only be 6 episodes in the season. Oh, wow. That is a short season. I think season 5 was a little shorter too. Only 10 episodes or 12 episodes, something like that. Only 6. Wow. This season. And Tipper explained that episode 1 and episode 6 were filmed together, with the later supersized episode, so that must be the final episode, being 65 minutes in length. Shankar expounds further, saying, "We always knew we wanted it to end big. There's a lot that happens in that episode. And we, by shooting it early, gave us a chance to actually finish all of the visual effects." Yeah, I imagine the show is takes some time in post production, um, being almost entirely space based sci-fi. Obviously, they can shoot a lot of this stuff, on the ships, or if they land on a planet or whatever, and use like traditional sets for that. But a lot of it is pretty CG heavy, pretty space heavy. Fans want to know when the 6th and final season of The Expanse will be dropping. During the panel, season premiere date is December 10th. So it says season premiere date. So it looks like they're not going to drop it Netflix style, all in one big lump. They're probably something, which is cool. So it'll spill into 2022. Give Book of Boba Fett a run for its money, I suppose. Check out the trailer for the new season of The Expanse above, and watch the first look video below to find out. I'm not going to show the video on live stream. I'm just not sure what Amazon's take on that is, so I don't want to get any included. So The Expanse, it's coming back. I'm just going to leave this up here. Hello, crew. Such a fantastic. Yeah, The Expanse does a lot of things right. I have to imagine that The Expanse, as written, as filmed, as enjoyed by the audience, is kind of what other sci-fi creators wish for their shows. There is an overarching, very very strong, important overarching plot to the show, but each episode really stands on its own merits, in my opinion, and that's something that a lot of serialized shows don't get to claim. Right? There's some, like I think about some of the Marvel stuff that they put out on Disney Plus. Um, they really rely on a big reveal or a big tease to kind of pull you through some pretty exposition heavy episodes, so you don't miss out on the big reveal or the big cameo. The Expanse doesn't even flirt with that. Every episode, they hit you hard with something important and heavy and meaningful. And for the entirety of its run, I was there for it. It's an incredibly uh, diverse cast and crew, and not at all in a pandering way. It's really hard to be critical of either the casting choices or the writing in that regard, because it respects the universe it's in so much. This isn't spoilery here, but it's a space-based series. It probably won't spoil anything to realize that people aren't just on Earth. There's kind of 3 main human factions at play here, and the lore of the universe really does a very good job respecting the kind of cultural and even sometimes the phenotypic differences between all those races, essentially, at this point. It does it organically, like I said, with respect to the story itself, and 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 you gotta love it. Also, the aliens aren't just anthropomorphized people. The alien race that's encountered in the Expanse is entirely alien. Um, Very unrelatable, and I think that's something that sci-fi fights with a lot. Fantasy, we have things like orcs, elves, goblins, various humanoids. You have things like dragons and stuff too. But in fantasy tropes, you kind of expect other races to be humanoid. Um, that's just part of the genre. But in science fiction, I think sometimes if you have aliens that are too humanoid, it can either be budget driven, right? They just don't have the budget to create truly alien character, truly different characters. Um, but that's not the case in a novel, right? That's not the case necessarily in illustration. So for movies, you can kind of see why those decisions are made. But I think for some science fiction that isn't like needs to be filmed and done either practically or digitally, well, that can just be kind of I don't want to call it lazy writing, but they don't get too creative with the aliens. The Expanse definitely does. Very non-human aliens. They also really it's pretty much hard science fiction, right? You're not teleporting around or jumping through huge distances of the galaxy in a blink. Like it leans on the rules of physics. It really portrays gravity well. In fact, it's a huge threat in a lot of episodes. How does a wound in a zero gravity situation work? Um, very dangerous, as it turns out. So it's hard science fiction in that regard, that it leans into that. Um, and that isn't just a plot or a writing contrivance or anything. It actually really factors into a lot of the storylines. The fact that science is what science is, and we can't escape that. The characters can't escape that. Speaking of the characters, they are not idealized caricatures of some trope or another. They're in a way that I see a lot of stories try to make flawed characters. They try to make perfect characters, but fake a flaw here and there. Uh, the Expanse is not gentle on their characters. Um, I love the school of writing that kind of views characters as a plaything for the author to torture. I think readers respond to that. I think if a overpowered or flawless character is put into situations that ultimately aren't challenging for them and easily overcome things, and everyone around them claps and oohs and ahs, it's really boring as a reader or as a watcher. The Expanse, not so much. The characters make terrible decisions for good reason, and pay the price for those. Um, and it's not. It is not. Uh, it doesn't cherry pick which characters do and don't suffer from those lapses. Um, the the characters are true to the way they are created and true to the way they've been written, and sometimes that's to their detriment. I think a lot of times now in movies in particular, you see this because they're 90 minutes, 120 minutes, 150 minutes. Some of the bigger movies, you have what should be an established character, and since maybe it's because they just have 2 hours to pull things off, they make decisions that are like, oh wow, that's really not the way they set this character up at the beginning of the movie. That seems a little inappropriate for them to be making that choice, but I guess the plot needs it. Um, you won't find that in The Expanse so much. They do what their characters would likely do in those situations, and like I said, sometimes it's to their or to everyone's detriment. So anyway, there's a lot that The Expanse does right, does correct, I should say. I don't see these actors in a lot of other things, but boy, they should be. They have just done a wonderful job with this show. Um, I'm torn. I'm sad to see The Expanse come to an end, uh, but I also wouldn't want to see it linger on and become, less than the absolute wonderful story that it has been so far. So yeah, starting in December, we'll be able to watch the big close. So stay tuned for that. And I guess you've got a little time if you haven't enjoyed the Expanse yet. Like I said, I'm jealous, and you got time to get caught up before the sixth and final season releases. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is this article from Screen Rant. Title of the article: "The Book of Boba Fett proves Disney has a Star Wars prequel problem." So Screen Rant is definitely no stranger to clickbaity titles. This one, though, is almost actively misleading. I like the article. We'll read through it. But either this is a typo or Screen Rant was afraid because of Disney coming down on them or something, or I think they were afraid to say that Star Wars has a sequel problem. So it's either a typo or they were afraid to say that, or this is a really weird way to characterize their own argument. But at any rate, the title aside, let's read through this article, and I'll share my thoughts. I'm definitely curious to hear what other people have to say about it. In my social circles, with my friends, with other writers, other Star Wars fans, I've talked about a lot of these things. If you found this channel at all, you probably have had conversations about this kind of stuff too, because you're into it. But let's read through this article by Owen Danoff. Disney's clear hesitance to commit to post-Star Wars Rise of Skywalker canon should be a cause for concern among fans of the franchise. That's a really well-crafted sentence. I think it's very accurate for what a lot of fans feel. It's worthy of a second read. Disney's clear hesitance to commit to post-Star Wars Rise of Skywalker canon should be a cause for concern among fans for the franchise. Yeah, I mean the thing that I think gets discussed a lot is, where are all these Disney Plus shows going, and how can we be excited about them if the end they lead us to is the tragedy that is the sequel trilogy. Nobody wants to go there. Nobody does. No, I shouldn't say nobody. There's definitely fans of the sequel trilogy, and there's some good moments in them, but overall they're a bit of a train wreck. So, the Book of Boba Fett points to a prequel problem in Disney's Star Wars universe. The prequel problem. I would say a sequel problem. Boba Fett's return in The Mandalorian Season 2 was well received, and the Bounty Hunter's upcoming spin-off is hotly anticipated. While it promises to be an exciting journey for a fan favorite character, the show becomes part of a larger issue when considered alongside the rest of Disney's Star Wars slate. Let's see why. Between the Book of Boba Fett, The Mandalorian Season 3, and Ahsoka, Disney is creating and hurriedly fleshing out a prequel to sequels era. It's been wildly successful so far, and in many ways gets Star Wars right, I would agree. As evidenced by Ahsoka and Fett's appearances in The Mandalorian Season 2, these shows also promise to relate to one another. However, while these prequel offerings will likely be more favorably received than George Lucas's prequel films, this Disney era may be just as questionable for more problematic reasons. Okay, so it's saying, the prequel trilogies definitely had some opposition. And it's saying that the Disney Plus shows might have similar opposition, but for a different reason, a problematic one. Let's see what it is. Disney's sequel trilogy featured a stellar cast and had bright moments. But it did have, that's what I just said. It did have bright moments, but is otherwise largely thought of as an unorganized, poorly planned mess. Yeah, and J.J. Abrams has, in fact, come out and said one thing he learned working on that Star Wars trilogy is don't go in without a plan, which is a bit of a backhanded way of saying Disney went in without a plan, and boy, did it show. In light of that, Disney either needs to focus on narratives set after the Skywalker saga or build up the sequel trilogy's story in a meaningful, deliberate way. I think that's what they're trying, and we'll see how it goes. Without those, Disney's focus on the immediate post Return of the Jedi era seems to be an attempt to quickly fix some of the sequel trilogy's strangest plot holes, and to please disappointed fans. If that's the case, it's worth wondering if Disney Star Wars is heading into creative decay. Um, we talk more about this at the end of the article, but I think the opposite. I think Disney um, displayed a lack of creativity, particularly with the sequel trilogy. But Rebels, Clone Wars Season 7, Rogue One, The Mandalorian Season 2, those are wonderful Star Wars editions. I mean, your most diehard extended universe novel fan, comic fan, that this is not my canon, my head canon is true Star Wars. Any of them has to be just thrilled with those entries. Now, Solo was a bit of a hot mess. The sequel trilogy itself has been talked to death as a bit of a disaster, Star Wars wise. I would say that Star Wars Resistance was, I don't even know what that was trying to do. So there's an equal amount, and if you look at the big box office releases, maybe a more visible amount of Star Wars that has really struggled to flat out failed. But I would think that Disney has given us some of the best Star Wars we've ever seen. So headed into creative decay? I don't think so. I think we're going the other direction. If Disney can be accused of creative decay, I would look a little bit more toward Marvel, look a little bit more toward some of the live action remakes of its classic animated shows that are struggling. But Star Wars, man, I think that's got to be a bright spot on their slate of projects. So anyway, let's go on with this. It's true that The Mandalorian connects the sequel trilogy the sequel trilogy in a few ways. And people have groaned about it every time we've seen that show up. But I mean, it is what it is. Connected to the trilogy in a few ways, and it's likely that the Book of Boba Fett and Ahsoka will find ways to do so as well. However, for these shows to truly help redeem the sequel trilogy, they must connect in a way that lends narrative, not just logical continuity. Yeah, 100%. I don't think many people are interested in enjoying the journey to the slaughterhouse that is the sequel trilogy. That's not angry man yelling at clouds. That's there are Wall Street numbers to back that up. There are Bob Iger canceling all live action movies following Solo to back that up. So I would say that they must connect in a way that lends narrative and not just logical continuity. George Lucas's prequels filled the universe of the original trilogy, but it did so in service to the telling of Anakin Skywalker's tragic story, not fixing plot issues. This is a far cry from how The Mandalorian tangentially fills in gaps in sequel trilogy logic. It's like its hasty setup of force healing to explain how Rey and Kylo Ren can force heal in Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, and its glimpses of the Empire's first attempts at cloning. These revelations patch up holes in the sequel trilogy, but don't make them more interesting viewing. In a way, a series or film about Kylo Ren's abandoning of his Jedi training for the First Order might. Please don't make this a call for a Kylo Ren story. That would certainly be a way to go, Disney. What would really make fans happy is to actually show a whole series about Luke standing over Kylo Ren. Luke from 50 years almost of history as a hero, standing over his nephew's son, waiting to kill him. Yeah, let's make a show about that. That'll go over well. But yeah, these revelations patch up holes in the sequel trilogy. but don't make them more interesting in viewing. Um, I 100% agree with that, right? Uh, I don't need a series set in Canto Bight as a way of justifying the really boring and hard to justify story wise sidetrack that Finn and Rose Tico go on in The Last Jedi, right? No amount of cool gambling planet episodes are going to make that entire sequence make sense or make the Last Skywalker any more enjoyable. It's not going to fix that. Um, the creation of Snoke and building him up as a legitimate threat, what he's discussed as in The Force Awakens, no origin series setting him up as this colossal threat is going to fix the fact that he is utterly dispatched of in the second of three movies and leaves the writers, leaves the directors, leaves the producers scrambling for a legitimate threat in the third movie. Yeah. Uh, so the analogy here, or the correlation here, is that what Lucas did with the prequel trilogies was told more story, right? He told the story of Anakin. How did this Vader character come to pass? Um, Vader was an utter badass in all three of the original Star Wars movies. He didn't need fixing. What the prequel trilogy did was gave us context for how he came to be such a badass character. He's one of, if not the greatest villain in cinema history. Certainly, perhaps the most recognizable, and not just in the Western world, perhaps worldwide. That is really quite something. So that was in a hole that the prequel trilogies were trying to patch on a sinking ship. Sequel trilogies, on the other hand, has some gaping holes, and it was taking on water faster than they could bail. Let's finish this article. If the post Jedi shows don't add depth to the sequel trilogies, they must plant seeds for a post Skywalker saga timeline to avoid being simple fan service. Okay, we might come back to that. I'm not sure I agree with that sentence. Uh, Even if the Book of Boba Fett, The Mandalorian, and Ahsoka connect to each other, the stakes will feel lower and lower if audiences realize that each story is irrelevant by Star Wars Force Awakens, even Ahsoka, which promises to reintroduce both Jedi, because Ezra Bridger, and a brilliant villain, they're talking about Thrawn there, to the post Return of the Jedi timeline, it's unlikely to affect a post sequel trilogy galaxy. Ahsoka herself is implied to be deceased by Rise of Skywalker. I don't know about that. And her likely adversary, Grand Admiral Thrawn, is completely absent from the trilogy. Yeah, if Thrawn were a thing if Thrawn were a thing and Palpatine came back, yeah, we would know about it. So I don't know how they fix that. It was also clear that Disney has been hesitant to commit to a post-sequel trilogy direction. Star Wars Visions has proven the potential of the era, touching on the Force, lightsabers, and the future of the Jedi. However, it is not canon, further hinting that Disney is afraid to take the saga in a new direction. Lucas's upcoming shows will surely please audiences. Without a larger plan, however, they may simply be safe bets and an appeal to nostalgia. Hopefully, the Book of Boba Fett will use the iconic character to grow the franchise in a meaningful way. Yeah, obviously, I think everyone would hope that. Disney and Lucasfilm, first and foremost on that list, grow the franchise has to be really their only goal, because that means money. But yeah, if post Jedi shows don't add depth to the sequel trilogy, they must plant seeds for a post Skywalker saga timeline. Yeah, maybe. I think it's a little hard to, Star Wars happens in a universe, right? Universe is a big place. Galaxies are a big place. I guess you could say that, yeah, while the more interesting um, conflicts involving the Mandalorians, involving Ahsoka, involving um, whoever else may come to pass in the Disney Plus Star Wars stuff. Um, if all and Thrawn, if all of that was happening one part of the universe, and the thing we're not going to talk about, the whole Rey Poe Finn versus Snoke slash Palpatine happened off past the Outer Rim, and nobody really knew what was going on. I guess you could do that. It's a little hard to believe that Leia and Luke and Han and all these people were off doing that and missed the show with Thrawn and the Republic and everything. But I don't know, maybe. I don't know how Disney pulls that off though. I think the good news for them is they don't have to do it very soon. We could literally watch years and years and years of amazing Star Wars without ever getting to the point where we had to deal with the characters of Rey and Poe and Finn and Kylo and Snoke and all that. There's no reason Mandalorian season 3, Mandalorian season 4 can't happen days after the events of season 2 and really only span space of days, right? So that they could keep that going as long as they felt like they wanted to. I think there's some sunk cost fallacy at work for Disney. They spent a lot of money. They paid George Lucas a lot of money to get Star Wars, and then they kind of soiled the bed a little bit with the sequel trilogy, but they sunk a lot more money to do that, and they have huge properties tied up, like physical properties with the resorts and stuff tied up in association with those characters and those movies. That's a lot to back away from, but they have people looking at and doing the math, so they would know better than any of us if it's worth it to pull the plug on that and let that ship sink, climb on board another one. Let's look a little bit let's hop over to eBay and let's look at Hot Toys Star Wars. Just see. All right. I'm not going to sort these results or anything. Let's just look. So we're looking at Hot Toys. So if you're not into action figures at all, Hot Toys kind of sets the bar in the industry for high quality collector grade figures. Like they are the pinnacle of figure making. If you want anything better than a Hot Toys figure, basically you're moving into sculptures, right? Into statues. So they're the high watermark for collectors. So let's just look through a few of these. So we're looking at Darth Maul, $400, $200. Rey, she's up at $300. That's pretty good actually for her. This one's new, so this is a pre-order. It's not even out yet, so it's going to be about the same price as retail, because you can just go on sideshow.com and order this guy for retail right now. Anakin, Leia. This one's still, you can just buy this on Sideshow now. And a normal figure from Hot Toys bought in the US from a licensed vendor will be $225 to $250, right? Yeah, right. This guy, I can go to Sideshow and just click add to cart and buy 3 of him right now. So look at this. Anakin. This is Dark Side Anakin. It's basically Anakin, but he has yellow eyes. Really sought after character. This will go up. There's 2 bids, 3 days left. That'll probably be $550, $600 by the time it finishes. Look at this though. Captain Phasma, The Force Awakens, $200, less than retail, right? Less than retail. Qui-Gon Jinn, he's at 250. I want to see just the buy it nows. Obviously, the auctions will climb higher. Yeah, here's Yoda at 200, but there's 5 days left. Or sorry, no, only 5 hours. Wow, that's actually not a bad deal for that figure. He was less because he's a small figure. Luke, well, I want to see more IG-88. Or that's probably IG-11. Let's see. Last Jedi. I want to see sequel era characters where they're at. The Last Jedi Luke. Buy it now. Look at this. Execution Trooper 180 under retail. Look at this Rey though. Rey's popular. This is a really good head sculpt too. She looks great there. This one's an auction, so it'll go up, but 160. Oh man. $100. It's really Rey and Kylo that are commanding a price. Jedi Executioner. And there's not many of them either. Oh, this is just a box. Yeah, these figures aren't very sought after. Now let's look just for reference. What is stuff that's not brand new out for a bit? Oh, Clone Wars. Let's look at Hot Toys Clone Wars figures, just by comparison. This is brand new, so you can buy these retail. Same with this one. But let's look at Captain Rex, $400. He's coming out soon. Mine's delayed. Coruscant Guard, that one's already out. It's at 300. Yeah, maybe this. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Count Dooku. So these are some characters that are some figures that have been out for a while. So this is truly secondary market. So the whole reason I'm showing these is, what do fans of Star Wars think? And a good way to see their opinions is, where do they put their money? You know, how are they voting with their wallet? Count Dooku. This is hard to get figure, actually. I'm surprised this one's not a little higher at 430. Cody, 440. Rogue One Darth Vader's $500. Vader always sells well, though. Cody at 460, at 420. So we're seeing sequel era characters selling for retail or lower. And oh man, R2 is $500. We're seeing clone era 450 for Maul. Look at this. This is a Hot Toys 2-pack. A Trooper and Finn. This is $140 each. That's like $100 off retail price. Wow. Yeah, so what you're seeing is these characters aren't popular, even with fans. Like the type of fan who will spend hundreds of dollars for, like me, for an action figure, isn't buying and is paying less than retail for sequel era's characters. And if we missed out, we're willing to pay twice retail for characters from other Star Wars continuity, right? Let's look at Black Series though. Star Wars Black Series. Let's just see who pops up. So the Black Series is 6-inch figures like these guys here. They're 6-inch figures. They're made by Hasbro. Much more accessible. These you can, when they're not sold out, which they often are, you can find them in your toy aisle of Walmart, of Target, wherever. So these are the figures that people are buying for the kids, getting as Christmas gifts or birthday gifts, or like in my case, collecting. They don't take up as much space as a 12-inch figure, right? I can have the entire crew of the Ghost from Star Wars Rebels and fit it easily on a shelf. Whereas, you have to plan out and pick and choose. You have to really curate a collection of statues or of 6 scale figures. So Bad Batch stuff. Bad Batch was pretty popular. And for a Black Series figure, you're looking at $25, 25 bucks for a figure. Depends on how many accessories they come with. Some of the bigger ones are cheaper. But so let's look at these. Let's see, 3PO's 35. Vader, there's tons of Vaders. Less than retail for Moff Gideon here. Let's see. I'm just gonna do same thing. What did I use? The Last Jedi, right? The Last Jedi. So sequel trilogy, Black Series figures. Yeah, he's unboxed, right? So he's pre-owned. So let's not look at that one. Snoke on his throne. Even I think this was a $30 or $35 figure, something like that, because he comes with a set piece essentially. $15, 0 bids, no bids. Old Man Luke, $20. Praetorian Guards, whatever. Maz Kanata, $10. This won't sell. At unboxed Poe for that much money, probably won't sell. Snoke for $18. Poe for 15 again. Yeah. A lot of these just won't sell either. $8 for Finn. You realize that is $8 for a Finn, plus tax, free shipping. Nope, $6.50 shipping. Yeah, 3 for $10 each essentially. The only Black Series figure in one of my local stores, the only Black Series figure that is close to me locally is in a grocery store. They've got about 6 of the Admiral Holdos. They've been there for forever. They're never going to sell. And what sucks is because they have all those and they don't sell, they're not going to restock like all the Mandalorian Black Series figures, stuff that would sell in a heartbeat. They won't get it because they couldn't move this sequel era stuff. There are so many Finns and Poes and Rays just choking the pegs that they won't get new product in that actually has a hope of moving. Yeah, all these figures under $10, under $10. DJ under $10. Poe for 15. So let's look at what did we look at? Well, we looked at the Clone Wars. Normies, right, that aren't super into Star Wars, most people haven't seen the Clone Wars. There's 7 seasons of animation, and the first couple seasons were made really directed at kids, right? For an adult to watch, it can be a bit to get through. But you get to seasons 4, 5, 6, and 7. It's literally some of the best Star Wars ever made. Amazing storytelling. Let's look at these characters. So again, same base price point. You're looking at a $20, $25 figure. We're seeing sequel era stuff go for $8, $10, $15. Ahsoka's hugely popular, so she should be. She's the best Star Wars character ever made, so you would expect her for her to go for a bunch. But 30 for Anakin. Again, Ahsoka sells for a pretty penny. 40 for who is this guy? Mandalorian Loyalist, right? $40. Aura Singh, arguably just a throwaway bit character. She happened to show up in the pod racing scene at the Phantom Menace, and somebody in the Clone Wars was like, "Oh, that's a cool looking character," and she got a little more fleshed out in the Clone Wars, running around with young Boba. But yeah, $35 for her, 50 for Echo. I should be looking at sold lists too, because they'd be even lower. Yeah, 50 for Clone Commander Fox. It's a hard to find figure. Yeah, $40. 27 for Ahsoka, that's a pretty good deal. Yeah, 30 for Orison, almost 40 for Cad Bane. Yeah, so I mean, belaboring point here, but Disney has a real problem because of the sequel trilogy and because it failed so drastically in fans' eyes. Um, they've got a lot committed to that. They have a ton of capital just dumped into that sequel trilogy, and unfortunately, fans aren't into it. But they've displayed that they're still really into Star Wars, right? They will gobble up as much Star Wars as produced, essentially. And for the stuff they like, they're willing to buy action figures, buy lunch boxes, buy sheets for their kids' beds and stuff. But it's not sequel trilogy characters. It's all the other stuff. It's Mandalorian. It's Clone Wars. It's even original series and prequel trilogy stuff. Um, and when they're making new content, right? Obi-Wan's safe because we know that Obi-Wan's path only has to get him to A New Hope, to taking Luke off the farm. Fine, totally fine. The Andor series, the one I'm most excited about, we know they only have to get him as far as Rogue One, right? We know where his story ends up. But when you look at things that happen post Return of the Jedi, right after the Battle of Endor, we have the Mandalorian, we have the Ahsoka stuff, we have Book of Boba Fett. All of that has to go somewhere, and until Disney pulls the plug on it, the only place it can go is to The Force Awakens. And fans have shown that they're not willing to put money toward that. So we'll see. Let me close that up. Let me get back here. So that's where we're at. I wanted to talk about The Expanse. So cool that they're coming out with the season 6. And like I said, if you haven't watched The Expanse, congratulate yourself. You're in for a real treat. I would love to see it again for the first time with fresh eyes. How amazing would that be? So there's The Expanse. So happy to see them back. And then, Disney's got a problem to solve. Fingers crossed they make good choices. And I think it's been shown that fans will reward them with dollars if they make good choices and show us the stuff that we love and will love. All right, that's all I got. If you found me, you're probably into this kind of stuff, so maybe that's worth a follow. If you watched this long, you probably enjoyed the video, so toss me a like if that is your bag. And yeah, I'm sure I'll be back soon with something else that caught my attention. Take it easy, everybody.